Hi everyone, my name is Daisy Correa and this is my presentation on comparing and contrasting the United States and Russian political systems. A closer look at governance, economy, and society. Introduction to political systems. So before we get started, there are some key terms that we should be familiar with to understand. One being the word state. So this is referring to the key political institutions that are responsible for making and implementing important policies in a particular country, implying a durable entity that remains despite changes in ruling parties. Another one is government, which is the more specific people who occupy the institutions of a state at a given point in time. And regime, the set of rules about who gets to be the government, which can endure for long periods or changes rapidly. So in the United States, we have an established liberal democracy, which is constitutionally a republic with a long history of democratic governance. The Russian Federation, they have a reformed as independent state in as of December 1991. So now we will be discussing the executive branch. So the United States has a unitary executive, which would be our president. And our president, who is both head of state and head of government. Um, the way our presidential candidate is um, selected, it's directly selected through the citizens of the United States through the electoral process. And then power is subject to a system of checks and balances with the legislative and judicial branches. For our Russian Federation, they are comprised of both a president and a prime minister. And the way that they are selected, the president is directly selected, while the prime minister is appointed by the president with the approval of the State Duma. The president then serves as a commander of military forces and is head state secretary. Under Vladimir Putin, since 1999, the office of the presidency, along with the dominance, has undermined the balance of powers and federalism. And here, the legislative and judicial branches. So, for the United States, the legislature, we have a bicameral Congress, which is the House of Representatives and Senate, and they are in power of including, proposing, and approving legislation. The judiciary is the independent judiciary with the Supreme Court as the highest court. For the Russian Federation, they consist of the upper house, which is Federation Council, appointed by regional executive and representative organs, and a lower house, which is the State Duma, which is chosen by direct election with 450 deputies. And here, the judiciary, they work as an independent constitutional court with 19 justices, which can be nominated by the president and approved by the Federation Council, and hold a 12-year term with up to possible renewal. Political parties and opposition. In the United States, we're characterized by a two-party system, primarily Democratic and Republican parties. These both have competitive elections, and the opposition parties play a crucial role in checks and balances, holding the governing party accountable, which is very important. In the Russian Federation, this is featuring a dominant party system, with United Russia holding a consistent majority, allowing it to implement any policies it wishes. facing only the public's opinion and theoretical potential for other parties to gain support in the future. Economic systems and challenges. The United States has a very developed market economy. It's based on capitalist principles, which are characterized by private enterprises and significant global integrations. Federal, I'm sorry, the Russian Federation. Transitioning from the Soviet era after the collapse of the USSR in 1991, Russia went under a rapid transformation from a state-controlled economy to a market economy. However, challenges of privatization were rapid but often did not improve the efficiency or even the competitiveness with insider privatization, hampering reform. And they currently do face some challenges. So despite the growth, corruption remains a major obstacle with Russia ranking poorly on the Corruption Perceptions Index. Um, the slowed Russian development, basically with other places such as China, India, and Turkey, um, Russia has sought to deepen relationships with these places to offset these impacts. Society and civil liberties. Here in the United States, um, there's a guarantee of a wider range of civil liberties and individual rights, with a vibrant civil society allowing for independent political and social organizations. The Russian Federation, the Soviet legacy. Soviet legacy was a system provided for extensive social welfare, including free healthcare, mass education, guaranteed employment, and low cost access to essential goods, leading to nearly universal literacy and low wage differentials. Post Soviet changes during the 1990s, budget constraints necessitated social welfare cutbacks, which increased inequality and poverty, especially among rural residents, the unemployed, and the pensioners. International relations and global role. The United States serves as a global superpower with extensive alliances, historically aiming at promoting liberal democracy and stability. The Russian Federation, on the other hand, their growing tensions and quote unquote new cold challenges and future trajectories. So the United States faces challenges such as those from rising populist movements that reject basic um, tenets of liberal democracy as well as internal political divisions. Under the Russian Federation, the soft authoritarian scenario appears to have taken a hold with Vladimir Putin's measures strengthening the presidential power and increasing suppression of opposition. Russia's dependence on natural resource exports make it vulnerable to global price fluctuations, in opposition to the regime has encouraged a quote unquote drain that weakens the economy. As far as future outlook, the invasion of Ukraine has all but eliminated expectations that Russia can democratize in the short term or medium term future. So, while both the United States and Russia are significant global powers, their political systems have diverged sharply since the end of the Cold War, while the United States maintaining its liberal democratic framework and Russia steadily moving toward consolidated authoritarianism. Thank you for being and seeing my presentation. I appreciate it. Have a good night.